Recently, our client Tommy met his banker to discuss continuing his father's restaurant legacy. In us, he found a partner that understood the importance of passing the torch. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy. Recently, our client Tommy met his banker to discuss continuing his father's restaurant legacy. In us, he found a partner that understood the importance of passing the torch. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast, Season 6, Episode 21. My name is Tim. I am in Toronto, Ontario. I'm joined once again by Jonathan Coolin, who's back in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hey, I'm back. Hello there, kids.
And we also are joined on the line, back in Seattle, Washington, Jaime Lopez Jr.
How's it going?
Although he was back last week too, but, you know.
Should we do like our three-part harmony of the boys are back in town?
Guess who's coming back to town? Yeah, sure. All right. So we got some fact check. Voight, let me say it again. Vought is not spelled like Voight as in John Voight. Is Vought. So, yeah, that one.
There we go, because we were wondering about that pronunciation and spelling.
Yeah, and I was talking about the CTV Sci-Fi Channel, otherwise known as Space. They played the original series on Monday. They played TNG on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they played Voyager on Thursday and Friday. So there is no Deep Space Nine love on CTV's Sci-Fi that I know of. And what was that? I was looking at a channel the other day. I think was it Netflix that has Star Trek on it? Jonathan, do you know? We were talking about.
Don't.
I noticed that I went to Netflix the other day, and it was like, hey, you can watch these shows, and I saw William Shatner as Captain Kirk in there, and I thought,
Let me have a quick look. I'm looking right now.
I guess Just Look could tell us too, right?
Here we go. Yeah. Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, original series, Next Generation, Voyager, Enterprise, animated series. Okay. Lots of choices. No new Trek, just old Trek.
Yeah, but we were talking about the fact that Crave is getting rid of Trek, right? In general?
Mm-hmm.
All being subsumed by Paramount Plus.
So if you have Netflix Canada, for the time being anyways, again, I don't know if that's not expiring too, but that's as of today, you can watch all the classic Trek anyways.
And it says, 3 seasons on Netflix, it says. Oh, there was only 3 seasons, never mind. CTV Space and Paramount. Oh, there's 1 season on Paramount Plus. That's weird. And it's also in HD. And you can obviously buy it on the Apple TV as well, on the iTunes. All right, and I was talking about the devices that showed up, especially in, I think not this episode, but the one previous, the medical scanners that we saw, the little cigarette lighter thing. And apparently there's a scene sometimes you see McCoy on his side table. He has a bunch of little medical-looking instruments made out of aluminum and stuff like that. And apparently those are Swedish salt and pepper shakers. And but the medical scanner is what they officially call that little cigarette lighter thing that I was trying to figure out what the name of it was, right? Oh, yeah, because I think Uhura uses it in the not but one episode. How do you say that? Penultimate? Yeah.
Penultimate.
Yeah, and then friend of the show, Keen, he was telling me in the office that Kirk did in fact know that David was his son in the Wrath of Khan, and so after fighting with David, I went back and watched the episode just to see this part. When they beam down to the Genesis planet, David and those guys are hiding, and he attacks Kirk, and they have a little tussle. And then after fighting with him, and they send Savick and David to go off and play with McCoy in the back room there. And he says, "Is that David?" to Carol Marcus. So he knew, in fact, that existed. And later, when they're chatting, he says, "I did what you wanted. I stayed away. Why didn't you tell him?" And then of course, paraphrasing a bit, she says, "Were we together? Were we going to be? I wanted him, in my world, not chasing after his father," which is, I think, what Jaime... Did you say that, Jaime, or did I think Keen said that?
I don't think I had enough recollection to just was asking the question because the episode we had seen, it's like, oh, Kirk knows that Dr. Marcus is pregnant, and we were wondering, is that a retcon, or did he know or not know? And that's the fact check here for Rathacon. It sounds like
because he did imply with Lon that he was in a relationship when it sounds like to her, Carol Marcus, he wasn't in a relationship, right? Anyway, at that point, I guess there maybe other things happened, but.
I'm going to let Keen have this one, but I may or may not have been screaming at my phone when I was listening to you two talk about that.
Well, we knew you would be screaming at your phone, and I'm surprised your phone survived, because I have friends who throw their phones out the window when things get them annoyed when they're driving down the highway. So,
well, I was doing it from a place of love.
All right. Well, what can you say? You weren't on the show. Well, mind you used to be the offline fact check guy. Now, I guess Keen's now unofficially the fact check guy.
There you go. Thanks, Keen.
Yeah. All right. And then to the headline. So this is a hefty story. I posted it to you guys in Slack beforehand. We were talking. This is kind of follow up, as we would call it, on the previous Morning Just Code show, where we have a story that we talk about, and then we find more stuff on it. And this was an article written around Apple TV Plus and the hot streak it seems to be on. And the question that they're raising in the headline here is, are people paying attention? And when they start listing off all the amazing shows that are on the platform, like Shrinking, Simildalian, Ted Lasso, The Big Door Prize, Silo, Platonic, Hijack, things that we've talked about. Foundation is another one, of course. And then things that nobody watches, like Hello Tomorrow, which I watched, The Last Thing He Told Me, I also watched that one. And then, of course, The Crowded Room, which I just talked about last week as well, right? And so a whole slew of shows. And when you look at the ratings of services like IMDb and what's this other one, Real Good, which is, this article is actually from an article based on the writers of Real Good. And that's like Real, REEL, good. People rate the Apple TV Plus higher than other shows, Max or even Netflix, right? And yet when you get down to it and you scroll down this huge long article, it's like a really long read. We get back to where we were saying last time, that Apple TV is just not, doesn't seem to be on a lot of people's devices. It could be because of the whole, walled garden Apple thing too, right? But they're kind of in the second place behind Prime, right? We were sort of wondering which service Apple could buy and leapfrog other services, right? Whether Apple would buy Disney or Apple would buy, I'm not going to buy Prime. But anyway, so I don't know if you guys had a chance to scan through these numbers, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a few things that sort of strike me, and I know the article mentioned, I can't find the quote, around Apple TV Plus. So I think from the rating standpoint, Apple TV Plus is the only one of these options here for Max, Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and Prime Video that doesn't have a strong reality TV show, like regular reality TV show thing of like, oh, here's, Food Stars with Gordon Ramsay, or here's Survivor or something. And those shows, from what I read, was, those tend to be, popular massively, but tend to not get rated very high because it's the kind of, trashy TV that I like to watch when I'm like unwinding at the end of the day, and I just want to
the
eat
Real Housewives of Seattle and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it kind of makes sense that Apple TV Plus would be generally highly rated. Apple seems to be keeping a quality bar that's pretty high. And when it comes to the numbers, I wonder, in terms of adoption, Apple TV Plus is really cheap. Like, it is. I might be the cheapest one here, especially since Hulu and Disney Plus moved up their tiers.
If you scroll down to the bottom of it, there's a comparison. Like, Max seems to be the most expensive. Goes between and this is American prices, $14.99 to $15.99. Netflix is anywhere from $8.99 to $15.49, and then Apple's way down at the bottom at $4.99. So it's like a third or even less than the price, right?
Yeah, and since it's so cheap, I wonder if the adoption is lower because people might be mistakenly thinking that they were have a requisite of like you have to have an Apple device. Oh, I don't have an Apple TV, like the device, therefore I can't get Apple TV. It might be a misconception. Oh, I don't have a Mac or an iPhone, therefore I can't get Apple TV because I have some, Android device or something. It's like, well, that's not true, but that's more of a marketing problem for Apple of like, you got to let people know that Apple TV Plus is available in these other areas.
Because it's available on Samsung TVs and other smart TVs, right?
Yeah, because for the price, and actually you're right, that chart way at the bottom of the pricing of like, if you were looking to be like, Lopez calculation, what am I going to boot out? You might boot out some of these other higher tiered services and say, well, let me go see what's on Apple TV Plus. And so it feels like a marketing problem for Apple. It's certainly not a problem of them creating good series. In fact, it's kind of surprising when I look at the sort of collage of series that I can kind of recognize just from the actors that they chose. Some of these I hadn't really thought about. So it feels like, again, more of a marketing problem than a creation problem. It seems like they've done really well in creating, maybe not as good on the marketing. Beyond Ted Lasso that everybody knows.
Yeah, and also, but it could also be I guess, I don't know why how did they keep the prices so low, I guess is the question, because Disney's also the second lowest price, right? Below Paramount Plus.
Because they're playing a different game, right? Disney wants you to go to the theme parks and buy merchandise, and Apple wants you to buy Apple products, even if their service is available outside of Apple's products.
Yeah. Well, but on the other show, on More Than Just Code, we talked about Apple's services push. They seem to be getting more into the services game, right? So I think that in spite of the fact that I don't think it is a marketing ploy, it would be nice if you bought Apple hardware, and that's ultimately what they want. But the thing is that they're doing so well on services that I think that's becoming a third arm for Apple in terms of where the revenue comes from, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a non-Apple specific guy, Jonathan, what do you think about all this stuff?
I would be really curious to know how much money they're losing on Apple TV Plus. Because I think that's the part that's not in this story, is that like the production, we talked about it on a few of the shows that we like. We talked about Silo, we've talked about Foundation, we've talked about, from the Earth, was it Earth to the Moon? What's the other one called? Or For All Mankind.
Yeah.
The production value of these shows is really high. Apple is producing at a quality level that we're really only used to from HBO. It's the only thing that's comparable. Although credit to Amazon with their Lord of the Rings series, the quality of that was extremely high. But really, the gold star for, best actors, best sets, best writers, best everything.
All the Emmy nominations, yeah.
Well, that's been HBO for years, right? But Apple is really putting its best foot forward. They're hiring huge names. They're putting together these incredible productions. They must be just absolutely bleeding money on this service. Now, they can afford to. It's not a problem for them. And for them, you're right. It's about getting the subs. They want the subscriptions, and they want the embeds of people being like, well, this would be a better experience if I have my Apple TV, or if I have my, my Mac, or if I have my iPhone. But, we talk about this from the perspective, we had that point that Netflix reached, right? Where they got sort of to the most that they thought they could get of subs. And then we're like, okay, here we are. Now what? The thing that works for Apple is they have that side project, just like Jaime mentioned. Same with Disney. Disney's got a side business that is extremely profitable. Netflix doesn't, but Apple, they've got the money to burn. So for them, they're putting out not just cranking out shows, but cranking out really, really high quality shows. The question is, at what point are they like, hey, we're not, $5 a month is not going to cover it.
Mm-hmm. So here's like they just had their numbers report, and Apple's sitting at, I would say, around $25 billion is their income from services, which includes things like Fitness Plus, Apple TV, their cloud storage stuff. What else is on there, Jaime? Photos? No.
That all falls under cloud, right?
Yeah, they throw a lot of stuff in there. iCloud, Apple One, Apple Music. Basically anything you would pay on a recurring basis, I think they just throw it in that bucket.
Yeah, so they're sitting around looking at this. I mean, just eyeballing this chart that they've got here. I would say like roughly $20 billion there is their income on that alone. I mean, compare it. I mean, the iPhone is crazy sales, but it's better than the Mac. They're making more money on services than they are on a Mac.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but again, that still doesn't speak to how much they're putting into the money.
25.9% of their income is from services. 48 point, or almost half, is from iPhone, and then the other three services, Mac, iPad, and wearables, they're each like less than 10%. So, I mean, it's the second most profitable center for Apple. So, whether they're bleeding money on this, I wonder if they are.
Yeah, I mean, it is percentage. I would imagine that they're making a larger percentage of that income through services, through cloud, iCloud, and music. I would say that those are probably the larger portions of that. But yeah, you're right. It would be interesting to sort of break down all those numbers. I still think when you look at, like, I'm going to use my most recent watching experience of Silo. Silo, the production on that is extremely high. They must have spent a fortune building those sets and costumes, and they hired, a very hot actor, and I mean that in the, place in the marketplace, not physically, in Rebecca Ferguson to be the star. She's coming off Dune. She's coming off of doing, other things. They hired, a pretty stellar cast for that show that couldn't have been cheap. Like, all that adds up. Are they getting that back? Yeah, they got some buzz. Maybe they got some subs on that. I don't know. I just wonder how much they're putting in versus how much they're getting out on those kinds of projects. And really, it is about the subs, right? So that's what their long game is. Well, we don't care if it costs us, for the sake of argument, $250 million to put out a TV show, as long as we end up with X number of subs as a result, and that they stay once they're done, right?
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting math. And again, Apple can play a long game because they are just loaded. Same with Disney to an extent, although I think we talked about it a few episodes back, that there's some rumors that Disney might want to divest itself of some of its other holdings. Now, they were talking specifically about ESPN and stuff. But interesting still that, like, Apple, because they're such a wealthy company, can really just do their thing for a while and watch the competitors beat the crap out of each other and just continue to put out quality programming, and they might come out on top in the end.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's move on to the Prodigy story. I
don't know if you all can actually see this from StarTrek.com, or if you have to put like CA, or if it's weirdly region blocked. Okay, perfect. So it's our first look at Season 2, Episode 1 of Star Trek Prodigy. I guess spoilers here for a bit, but at the end of the first season, you had the Protostar's crew sort of joining Starfleet. They're not like cadets proper. They're kind of doing like a gap year sort of thing, where they're going to be specially commissioned with Admiral Janeway. And in this preview, we get confirmation that the USS Voyager is a museum ship, probably over in the museum that we saw in Star Trek Picard Season 3. But we get the first glimpse of the Voyager A, which kind of looks like a mix between the USS Voyager original and like a Sovereign class starship. Kind of has the similar design sort of feeling. Did you all take a look at this?
Yeah.
Just watching it now. Ooh, holographic doctor dude.
Yes, you've got Ricardo apparently taking over the voice role for his animated version of the Doctor.
So what's the story with Prodigy? I thought it was not coming back or something.
Well, it was in that weird limbo of the culling from Paramount Plus, where even though this show I think might be finished or close to it, in the can for Season 2, it was unclear where it was going to actually premiere, because Paramount was unwilling to put it on Paramount Plus, and actually removed, like sort of overnight, the first season of Prodigy from Paramount Plus. So you can't watch all Star Trek through Paramount Plus. They broke the promise that was implicit in how they were collecting everything.
Yeah, It'd be again, why release this? That's just evil. I don't know.
It's really weird. It's like, where is it going to be, bro? I don't see anything in the article here of like, watch it on Nickelodeon or subscribe to Peacock.
Yeah. I mean, it basically says like, hey, you can watch it on Blu-ray and DVD. You can do a digital download. It says like the second half is coming. Cool, but like not this. So it's like, hey, good news, we made this. Okay, good night. I'm like, dicks?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this is doing is making me mad at Paramount.
Yeah.
And again, not our favorite show. I think we're all in agreement. This is not our favorite. Again, not that it's not good. It's just not, aimed at us. But yeah, like you're going to finish it and show us a little teaser and then we'll just walk away from it. That's mean.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Who's next?
That's me, right?
Yep.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so we were just talking about pricing, and the chart that you had, Tim, is going to be soon out of date because Disney Plus and Hulu are about to get more expensive. But I think I see what they're trying to do here, and there's a cheaper option if you stick with Disney Plus and Hulu. So I'll talk through my decision making that I'm going to have to make as of, what is it, like September 6th? Yeah, it looks like September 6th is when these. So Disney Plus will cost $13.99 per month US. The no ads tier for Hulu will go to $17.99. The ad-sponsored tiers of both services, according to this article from The Verge, will each remain at $7.99. They are introducing a combo plan. So they've had the bundle offering with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. There's a chart here in this article that it's a little mind-blowing of how many different options you have to think about, especially if you include Hulu Plus with live TV. Realistically, for me, the combined, where is it in the chart? The combined Duo Premium, Disney Plus no ads, Hulu Plus no ads, for $19.99 US is probably what I will switch to. So today, I've stayed on the Disney Plus with no ads, which is what it started as. I went with Hulu with ads because I got some sort of cheap deal, I guess more than a year ago for Hulu with like a Black Friday deal or something. Like I had pre-planned the Orville's going to come out within the 1 year, so it will be cheaper to subscribe $1 a month for 12 months than it is to subscribe for a couple of months at regular Hulu with an ads price. Except now in the Lopez calculation, I'm like, okay, Disney Plus no ads, Hulu no ads at $19.99 is going to be cheaper than even what I'm paying now. And is cheaper than the individual subscription prices to Disney Plus or individual subscription to Hulu with ads or without ads. So it really feels like they're trying to raise the average revenue per user, ARPU, right? If this was like you're buying singular products on Amazon, this would be let's get the shopping cart average price up, even though it's slightly cheaper, quote unquote cheaper, than buying these individual products. Don't go to McDonald's and buy the cheeseburger separately from the fries, separately from the small soda. Buy those together. It's quote unquote cheaper to bundle them, even though maybe you didn't need a drink, right? For just a little bit more, get the combo. I think that's what they're doing here. So I will almost certainly switch to the Duo Premium of Disney Plus no ads, Hulu no ads, which is a nice boost for me, but I'll be paying apparently $20 US for the combination there.
I wonder if this means Crave and Disney Plus are going to offer a bundle, Jonathan. What do you think?
Well, Crave and Disney Plus are completely different here, right? So, I mean...
No, but I mean... Oh, are they the same, like Hulu and is it Hulu? Sorry.
Well, Hulu is basically what we're getting through the Star service here in Canada. So we're kind of getting
sorry.
one clump,
Hulu,
right?
So what we're talking about? Are we talking about? Oh, it was Hulu and Disney are joining forces, Jaime, or Max and?
They have for a while. Disney has owned Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, and has done various bundles. And to Jonathan's point, we're talking about an American perspective, but I don't foresee a future where they say, well, we'll just be really nice to the Canadians and give them a discount. It's like, no. They're almost certainly going to do something to you all to chip away at your socialized sci-fi, as I've liked to joke about.
Yeah. No, I missed the fact it was Hulu, not HBO Max. So it's a good thing Max changed their name to make it much more clear for me to follow.
It's a good thing they made it the most generic thing possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Over to Jonathan.
Yeah, well, we'll go back into a little trek. This one was an interesting story that came out this week. So Timothy Olyphant, famously of Justified, which is on again right now, was doing an interview on a podcast last week, and he mentioned that he was in the running to play Captain Kirk for the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. He said that he had good auditions, he got along really well with J.J. and thought that it was a distinct possibility, and then he found out that they couldn't find anybody that was sort of a younger person to play, because he's 55 now. So I mean, back then when those first started, he would have been in his I guess 30s, and he said, he basically heard from JJ and sort of said, yeah, no, you're a good fit, you're a good fit, you're a good fit. And then he's like, actually, I just found somebody, and it turned out to be Chris Pine, who inevitably took the role. And there's a 13-year age gap between the two of them. So obviously that's more the age that JJ wanted for a young, up-and-coming James T. Kirk for the movies he was doing. And, it all worked out. But yeah, interesting that, what could have been with Timothy Olyphant. I could see him being a really good Captain Kirk. He would have made a good Chris Pike too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, for sure. And I just saw him in the. It's not. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah. So interesting sliding doors moment there for Star Trek fans. The next thing I have, so we lost a character acting legend this week. Mark Margolis passed away this week at the age of 83. You may not know him by name, but you know him by face. He, of course, was Hector Salamanca on Breaking Bad, the fellow in the wheelchair with the bell. But for our Star Trek fans, he is best known as Dr. Apgar. The famous episode of TNG where Riker is accused of murdering a scientist to try and steal his wife, and they do the recreations of what each of them think happened, and in one version of events, it's basically that Apgar walks in on Riker trying to make the moves on his wife and then slaps him around, and then the truth turns out to be that his wife tried to pick up Riker said no, Apgar got jealous and tried to kill him, but ended up blowing up the station and killing himself. Yeah, again, an all-timer for the TNG stuff. So I saw this week, and I just wanted to give dues to Mark Margolis.
Yeah, he goes way back. I mean, he even back to Scarface and a few other classic movies. So. Yeah,
and he was in all the Darren Aronofsky movies, and so he's again like character actor. He's been in so many things that you would have seen. You would not necessarily have known his name, but he's got one of those faces too.
Yeah, and he was the dude in Breaking Bad, right, with the bell.
Yep.
Yeah, the big loss. He's been in a lot of different things. He's that guy, Well,
exactly. He's one of those guys. Mm-hmm. I know that guy. What's he been in? Everything. Okay.
He was in Quantum Leap. That guy was in Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm.
The original one, not that one.
And the last thing I've got for the headlines is that they have given a new date for the Emmy Awards. So, Tim, I think you mentioned a couple episodes back that they canceled the Emmy Awards and postponed them indefinitely given the ongoing writers and actors strikes. But they've actually scheduled a date. They're saying Monday, January 15th is the new date. That's Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the United States. It's unusual that they've actually scheduled a date. That to me seems extremely telling or optimistic. I can't decide which.
Yeah, optimistic, I would say. Yeah.
You know, I think obviously they do want to be able to, you know, plan, and, you know, they need to try and sell ads, and there's lots of reasons logistically why you do this. But at the same time, it also kind of puts a bit of a timeline on, because while I would certainly hope that the writers and actors strikes are resolved by then, and I fully expect they probably will be, I just, yeah, it's interesting that they are just actually coming out and saying, this is the date, we're doing it this day. So it was supposed to be in September, so that's a pretty big kick down the road too. That's 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that sort of puts it into, well, I mean, that raises a question about the Oscars as well, right? Because that's around the corner from that time frame too, right?
Right.
Well, that's right. They're usually in February and early March, yeah.
Well, we'll find out in a couple of weeks when we have the Toronto Film Festival what's going to happen with that.
Mm-hmm.
All righty then. Well, it brings us to the finale. Is this the finale for this season, or for us and the show as well as this? I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, that's a larger discussion, because we do have we have a couple of good things coming up. We don't have Star Trek again until Lower Deck starts in early September, so
right. Oh, okay. So it's till September. It's not that.
But we do have Ahsoka premiering in a week and a half.
Oh, okay, cool. That's even better. Yeah. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Wow.
This morning in North Carolina, wheels are spinning. Determination is winning. A passion is now a thriving business, and it shows no signs of slowing down. How? The power of a conversation, like the one Clint Spiegel had with First Horizon Bank about starting a bike wheel manufacturing facility in Asheville. Now it's not just talk, it's rubber meets road. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Let's talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 10, Hegemony, the finale, the big finale. So I'm going to ask you guys for elevator pitches. What do you got? Who wants to go first? I'll go first. Gorn But Not Forgotten? I don't know.
That's a nice one there. For puns, I probably would have gone with like Gornucopia or something. But what I actually wrote really early in the episode was more of a 3-line quote. The line must be drawn here, this far, no farther, and I will make them pay for what they've done.
That's good. Nice way to bring it back. Well done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I just could not ignore the not subtle alien references in this one, so I went with, in Star Trek space, someone will always hear you when you scream.
Right.
Maybe that gives me a jump towards one of my big questions was like, have folks seen Alien 3 and Predator 2? Because, we'll probably get there and like, I absolutely knew what was happening with one character.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have seen those movies. I understand, script writing and what they're doing.
They ruined an opportunity here. There's a scene. I read a lot of sci-fi stuff when I was in grade school, and there was one short story series, and I just loved the sci-fi stories there. But there was a lot of them like, what happens if you get disconnected from your ship, and how do you use physics to get back? And the answer was you throw your hammer at the ship, and the gesture of throwing the hammer and letting go makes you move towards the ship, right? But mm-hmm. The one thing was, how do you communicate when your radio isn't working, right? And the scene where Chapel and Spock meet in space, essentially, they're both wearing spacesuits, right? I learned in this short story, if you put your two helmets together, the vibration from the air inside your helmet, it will transfer to the vibration at other person, so you can actually talk to each other by putting your helmets together. And they missed that opportunity with the two of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That would have been really cool. Deep cut callback for me, anyway. So we've got our pitches, right?
Pew pew pews.
Yeah, a lot of pew pew in this one.
I don't know how to tactfully say this, but the crashing of the saucer section of the Cayuga into the tower was my best pew pew pew. Like there's other ones that I see people could argue for. That one I thought was pretty interesting, especially because the the crew was so close and nearby in the shuttle that they're like, oh no, they don't know that we're standing right here. We better take
collateral
cover.
damage, 100%. Yeah. This raises big questions. We'll come back to that part.
Yeah, I also have some thoughts on that one, but I had the Spock and Chapel when they're taking on the adult Gorn. So up until now, we've seen younglings, right? We've seen the young Gorn in last season's also Aliens-esque episode, where the one where Hemmer sacrifices himself. We saw younglings in there. Here we see more younglings when they're on the planet. This is the first time I think they've shown us in this new iteration of Trek an adult Gorn in a spacesuit, and scary,
couple of them,
intimidating, like crazy with the tail and the whole, like, man, that puts the Kirk versus Gorn fight to shame. This is, these are some scary creatures. And again, up until now, we've only seen the younglings, and the younglings feel more like the alien from Aliens. They impregnate you, all that kind of stuff. The adults, this is the first time we've sort of seen like the warrior style of them, and they're not like the aliens from Aliens. They're more like the predators. Like, they look like these just big, scary, could rip your spine out kind of creatures,
but intelligent. I mean, there's one guy trying to hack the panel. When Christine hears him, trying to enter a password into this panel.
Yeah, and we knew they were, because obviously they have the technology and everything else, but we've never really seen that represented so far. This is the first time we've met an adult, and so that was, I thought, a really neat scene where, again, like, it's not just acting on instinct like we've seen the younglings, where it's just like kill, rip, tear, maim. This thing's actually like, fighting with purpose and logic, and I thought that was a pretty good fight.
That's our confirmation bias, is because we know, quadruped lizards on our planet and reptiles and stuff, they don't exhibit any kind of intelligence beyond, find food and eat it kind of thing. But the here because I always wondered, like, okay, they got these sophisticated spaceships and stuff like that, and in 60s technology, a guy in a rubber suit was the height of CGI, right? So that made sense, like, because I could not put myself between what we were seeing in the Gorn up until this episode and the Kirk versus the Gorn fight, because like that Gorn was intelligent, or like semi, even fakes and figures out how to talk to Kirk, right, at one point.
Yep.
But then again, alien life is, we don't know what alien life is really going to look like, which is, I guess, the part that I've always had trouble with Star Trek, is every alien species you ever meet has, a nose, 2 eyes, 2 ears.
They're all bipeds.
2 arms.
Yeah.
Yep. So, although they did explain that in one episode, right?
Yeah. It's best not to talk about that episode too much.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm all over the place on this one. I don't know. I don't have any specific one, but yeah, so we can, let's do the Easter eggs and we'll come back to the big questions, right? So,
yep.
I'm not sure if we saw this Easter egg before, or I mentioned it before, but the sort of spirally optical illusion thing on Spock's science desk on the that was something from that you would have seen in the original series, and I think he also has that little scope thingy that looks sort of.
Yep.
I didn't catch that in this episode, but yeah, that was something that Leonard Nimoy always worked with on the show, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. It is one of those things, like, obviously it's a beautiful homage to the original series, but it does seem ridiculous. Whenever I see Ethan Peck lean over this little viewfinder thing, I think, that couldn't have been on a screen? Like, what's going on there? Again, it's sort of that like retro-futuristic kind of deal, and again, it's beautiful homage to what's come before, but it also just seems, nowadays it just seems very kind of odd and out of place. But yeah, it is a neat little throwback for sure.
Well, and people are questioning the size of Pike's per cabin. He's got all this extra space, and he's got this kitchen in his cabin, and he's got like this sort of suite. And then they show a picture of William Shatner sitting in a little room with a little mock computer screen. Like, what happened to that? And somebody said, well, in Pike's Enterprise, there's like 205, complement of personnel, and then Kirk's there's 400. So they obviously had to compress the space and make make more room for people to live. But it's funny to sort of like the retcon stuff that doesn't fit between this Enterprise and previous Enterprises that we've known, right?
Yeah, it was interesting too. It struck me in this episode. So actually, that was the previous one. It was the one where La'an is singing and she's in her quarters. Yeah. Because I get that the captain's quarters would be a place where he might, especially because he likes to cook and he likes to entertain, and they want to write that in. Cool, okay, it's bigger. But she's the head of security, which is not a small role on the ship, but hers is also a massive quarters. And I thought, okay, now I think we're stretching credulity a little bit. Like, do all the bridge officers all have like the luxury suites? That's kind of a little absurd.
I think it's the largesse of the past, where everybody had, to make a work analogy, everybody had a private office with a door, and modern one is like, you got a hot desk. You don't even have a desk. It's a hoteling station now.
Yeah, I was going to say you have a closet somewhere that you sit in. I feel
like at some point we're going to start getting millennials adding us saying, of course they could afford those suites, and now we can't afford those suites.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, the super duper Easter egg, we knew it was coming, but I'd forgotten about it, actually, that this next one you've got marked here, Jonathan, was going to be on the show.
Yeah, Scotty.
This season.
We got Scotty.
Scotty, yeah.
Good old Welshie from Futurama.
Is that who that is?
Welshie, no, that's their joke. They did a Scotty homage as well. But it was again, it completely had slipped my mind that they were going to do this too. So when he popped up, I thought, oh, that's good. And I'm glad that they're rolling these things out in sort of slow fashion. We already got the first taste of Jim Kirk, and he's a lieutenant who's about to become a commander, and so we're getting to explore him a little bit. I like that they're slowly rolling these things out and bringing us to the TOS era, that it's not just like, every 5 minutes they meet someone else. So this one felt very organic and logical, and it also does a nice job of introducing the character, where they're like, everybody else is dead, how are you alive? He's like, I'm really good at what I do.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great introduction to Pike, and why Pike would eventually want him to be on the ship, right?
True, yeah. And then it's also Keen and I were talking in the spoiler zone on our Slack channel about, isn't it convenient that it's always just the engineers always seem to survive without the rest of the people? Like, Jet Reno kind of was a sole survivor, and Scotty at one point put himself in the pattern buffer, right, to survive for 70 years or something, right?
Yep.
And his crewmate didn't survive because of the data corruption or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, that would be because they have skills that adapt, right? They're not going to be as good as security folks at the pew pew pews, but they can, jury rig some pew pew pews, right? They're not going to be as good as the medical officers at healing stuff, but they get some basic training on that in Starfleet, and they can, jury rig some medical stuff out of necessity. So it kind of feels realistic that the engineers, if not pressed to do, surgery, if not pressed to do, strategy tactics from a military standpoint, could probably survive.
Well, one of my favorite scenes from the original series is the Trouble with Tribbles, where the Klingons and the engineering team have a fight in the canteen. Like, the Klingons start insulting them, and Scotty gets upset. And then they're all standing there, and Kirk's saying, okay, who started the fight? And they're all like looking around, and nobody wants to step forward. And Scotty finally steps forward and says, I did, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Loose cannon, that guy.
But in the best possible way.
Yes, for sure.
Did anyone else mark as an Easter egg? And I know this is like pushing the boundaries of Easter egg, but, even when you've got a premier top of the line series, they've still got a budget, right? So there's a lot of stuff that they spend a lot of money on this season. They spent some good money, quality money in this episode. But my Easter egg hunt is a TOS-style planet that happens to look like the Paramount backlot that exists already.
I know.
Budget-saving maneuver. Oh, they just happen to be like Midwestern USA folks. It's like, all right, I got you. You save budget, so you can do the pew-pew-pews.
Yeah, no Starbucks, though, but yeah. And, well, the other thing, too, for me, and it's kind of, I talked about this before, it's more tropes than it is anything else. And it's always the Spock will go and do the emotionally challenging mission, solo mission, suicide mission. He does it in one of the movies. I think the first Star Trek movie. where he goes off and does a solo kind of thing. I think he did it with the first show I remember watching, which was the what I used to call the flying ice cream cone in space, the planet, the Doomsday device, the Planet Eater.
Yeah.
Because he goes and communicates with it or something, or plants a bomb in it or something like that. So he always gets the task of doing the thing that no one else can do because he's got his emotions under control, right?
Yeah.
So that was in this episode, obviously.
I did like they did actually hire. I looked up the young person who played Scotty in this episode. His name is Martin Quinn. He's actually Scottish, so we don't have a Canadian doing a Scottish accent for the next X number of years. He's actually a Scotsman, which is probably appropriate given where we're at. You could afford to hire an actual Scotsman. James Doohan was Canadian.
The third.
That's what it says on his IMDb. Martin Quinn the third.
Cool.
Sort of related to what Tim mentioned, I put a vague Easter egg that Spock's sort of spacewalk here is very reminiscent of a similar one in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit like the one in the original movie, too.
That's what I said. Like, he's always got the sort of running off and solving the problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? And he's also on a solo mission with the new what do you call it? The one with in the Kelvin, the J.J. Abrams one.
Yeah.
There's lots of soloing stuff in that one, and he's also the solo guy involved in the was it Reformation? What do they call it with between the
reunification?
Federation. Reunification,
yeah. I got this. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. You guys need to come. Well, the big question for me, okay, like the first thing I thought was when the saucer section is floating in space. We had seen, spoilers for you if you haven't watched the show, but why are you listening? Christine Chapel in the beginning of the episode beams back up to the I forget the name of the ship, Cayuga?
The Cayuga, yeah.
Cayuga, okay. And so she's on the ship, and we know this, but nobody else knows this. And so they talk about solving the problem by using the saucer section and crashing it into the planet with under control. And so that's where Spock is going to land to place the explosives. So we know that somehow Christine is going to survive, or we think so, because she clearly is in the original series. But what about the rest of the people that might have survived?
Yeah. The fact that she's the only survivor stretches credulity just a smidge. And
then blowing up that,
and I wrote it down in my notes. It's the prequel problem rearing its ugly head. Is you can't give us these moments of, oh my God, is Christine dead? Did she die on the ship? Like, it doesn't hold. Like, it didn't hold for a second for me. Like, it was just like, Spock's angst and he doesn't know. And again, I guess you're supposed to empathize with him, but like, it just fell flat for me because I'm like, well, there's no way that she's dead because we know she's not dead. And beyond that, there's no way that they don't find her and have a happy resolution because she's alive in the future. So all of that is really tied to that persistent problem with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like a lighter version of that. Like, certainly for pretty in-depth Star Trek fans like ourselves, it's really challenging to be like, well, we know what's going to happen to M'Benga, we know what's going to happen to Pike and Uhura and Chapel and Spock. Like, really hard, and I guess even Una, like, it's really hard to do strong, like, oh, are they going to die here stuff? But I try to take a look at it from a lighter prequel problem for sort of the average person who just is interested in watching Star Trek and might be relatively new to it. So I would say they shouldn't do as much with Pike, given that they in show let us know that he's going to be okay in terms of he will survive so that he can be in the predestined accident, right? Mm-hmm. They shouldn't do a lot with him. They shouldn't do a lot of the, is he going to die with Spock and Uhura? Because, like, even the most casual person knows Spock, and there's a pretty good chance that they know Nichols, they know Uhura, right? So I wouldn't do a lot with them. Maybe you can get away with it with number one, because not as many people, casual TV watcher, would know that person. You could certainly do it with some of the newer characters. that's where I would advise them, like, don't lean too much on like, oh, is Pike gonna die? Clearly not. Like, you showed us in the show and in recaps that he will definitely survive so he can go sacrifice himself, right? Like, don't beat that drum too much. Use it with some of the other characters, like, oh, what's gonna happen to Pelia? What's gonna happen to Ortegas? What's gonna happen to insert other new character here? La'an, like, she doesn't show up on Kirk's ship unless she's like demoted or something, so play with those a little bit more.
I just checked on IMDb just to see if Erica Ortegas survives beyond. We don't have anything beyond her assignment to this ship, right? So there's no Admiral Ortega in the future in any of the other series, right?
So maybe she's not notable. Maybe she is being led towards, like, I'm putting on my reddest of red shirts because I'm super excited to be on an away mission.
Yeah. Well, because Boimler calls her a war hero in the show, right?
Which she is, or she is a war hero from the Klingon War. We knew that, right?
Okay, right.
But I wrote it down quickly in my notes. Like, they have been foreshadowing this for a bit, because, again, there was the whole, she was supposed to go down to the planet on the one mission, and then she couldn't go. And then in this one, they started off with, well, haven't you always wanted to go on an away mission? She was like, oh, yeah, why did I want to do that? And so there's the whole build-up of, like, her doing that. And then when she's flying down to the planet, and she's, like, doing that sort of, intense dive where she pulls up at the last second. She says, I did this all the time during the war. And then Pike says, oh, Erica, you were born for this. I'm like, oh, you're so gonna die. Like, it just, you don't say lines like that, right? And so that's why I had in my questions, like, is Batel going to die or live? I thought going into this episode that she was going to die, because they've just been foreshadowing that too. In the end, they might find a way to, like, prevent the Gorn impregnation stuff, so maybe she will live in the end. I think
maybe she's the new Ripley, right?
Well, I think that it makes sense for her to live now, because they've gone to the, bringing her off the planet, and again, they couldn't save Hemmer, but maybe they can save her, so maybe that makes more sense storytelling wise. But I still think Ortegas dies in the next episode.
Yeah, by the way, that brings up a fact check. I was calling her Patel, not Batel.
Yeah, it's Batel, Marie Batel. I
Will
think
Ortegas die? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I saw so much foreshadowing through the season, and I saw so much foreshadowing in here. And again, that also opens the door for them to, add a Sulu character down the road. And, so there's definitely some, I would say, anybody we don't know the future of, so Pelia, Una, Ortegas, they're all on the chopping block. They are. We know that. Like, right? No matter how much you're attached to these characters, they could kill them throughout this whole run, because we don't know about them in the future. You'd like them to have a happy ending, but, like, the reality is that you create characters like that to kill them. So you can have the flexibility, because you are so hemmed in by the prequel problem. You can't kill Pike, you can't kill Uhura, you can't kill Scotty, you can't kill Kirk, but La'an is fair game, Pelia is fair game. There are characters that we've gotten attached to. Again, we saw with Hemmer in the first season. You kind of thought, oh, he'll be the engineer for the series, and then all of a sudden he's gone. You're like, oh, well, okay. So yeah, I mean, it's good because it adds actual stakes, but then it also makes you just constantly wary of, like, oh, are they just going to kill this character off because they can?
Right.
The other question I had was the same one that Jaime, you mentioned, which is, what is the benefit of establishing a colony in a Midwestern style? Like, to what end? Like, these are theoretically people who would have been living in a modern society. They would have been living, in either, space vessel or, Luna or Earth, or insert any other planet here. And they come to this place and they're like, hey, you know how you live in a world with, like, replicators and all this amazing technology? What if instead we put you in 1950s Kansas? And they'd be like, how about you don't? How about you build us, like, a nice modern city with a defense shield? How about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand. Like, I'm beyond the... I think what they're trying to do is say this was a thing, so that way that kind of retroactively explains why so many places look like that in the 1960s original series. But to me, it seems like there would be no logical value in doing that. It's not cheaper. It's not easier. It's just completely incongruous. It doesn't make sense to me at all. I struggle with that one a lot.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. The thing about the original series was they did, in fact, use other sets, and they had different storylines. They had a Nazi storyline. They had Aboriginal storylines. They had, they would use sets that were already existing on the back lot. And because I always wondered, okay, how did that planet evolve to the same state as 1950s United States, Midwest? Like in the original series when I was watching them as a kid, thinking, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there, but one of my least favorite scenes is when there's sort of a primitive, warrior society, and Kirk finds that they have this secret document that they covet, and they it's sort of their manifesto, and he looks at it and realizes it's the American Declaration of Independence, right? And he starts reciting it because kids in school, I assume Jaime can recite it right now, right, Jaime? But I can recite it having watched Star Trek all these years. But that was sort of in watching the original series. You kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, why go to such an extent here? Why have Captain Pike's quarters be so lush and luxurious, and by the same token, build this planet and not put up some sort of protective beacon, right? Especially since they're that cloned. I don't know if they were thought they were that close to Gorn space, but you wouldn't think they would think something like that. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's sort of the infrastructure problem through all of the Star Trek versions that we've seen over the years. They always have these space stations that seem to be unprotected and attackable, throughout the whole series, right? And when we know there's no way they would put them out there without some kind of security if they could. Even Reagan was ready to build Star Wars, the Star Wars defense system, right?
Yeah.
Because he'd seen the movies and been in them. We get into what they said?
Yeah. I had a couple. I liked Pike's line about the Gorn at the beginning. Sometimes a monster is just a monster, because they're trying to talk about the, But again, I think that speaks to he'd only really encountered the younglings, not the people. Although you could apply it to both. I liked Pelia's line when Uhura's trying to figure out what to do, and then she says, "Don't sugarcoat it. I love a crazy theory." I thought that was really funny, and a funny delivery as well. But the best quote, I think, was Scotty. When an armada of human-eating lizards come my way, I can get a little creative.
Yeah, that actually raises a question too. I hadn't really thought about that until you just started saying this. But the younglings seem to be very primitive and very instinctual, right? They're just about eating and crawling and attacking and whatever. When do they become intelligent?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do they go to Gorn? What's it called? Etiquette school?
That's right.
At some point in the future,
learn not to play with your food.
Miss Manners schoon for Gorns.
Yeah. Learn not to play with your food. All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Share with your friends.
That's right.
I also like you mentioned it earlier, but the scene where Pike sort of says, "You've always wanted to go on an away mission." She says, "Yeah." Why did I say that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a difference between I get to dress up and go play pretend versus I'm getting, targeted by these monsters.
Yeah. And also the fun she has, landing the ship by, letting it go to the last second and then kicking on the engines, right?
Yeah, and again, those moments, I love those moments, but those moments always say to me, that's a hero moment, right? They're showing how amazing she is. Those ones always make me nervous, because then they're like, isn't she amazing? Look at her die. Oh no.
Yeah.
And again, having Pike deliver that line of, you were born for this, Erica. I'm like, oh, nobody says stuff like that. You're gonna die.
But she's already wearing the red shirt, like Jaime said, right?
Yeah. It was right there in front of us the whole time. Jaime, good job.
Yeah. So you got your prediction here. Patel dies. You already talked about that, right?
Yeah, I think so in my notes, when going into the episode, was the first thing I wrote down, because they had been foreshadowing, last episode, at the end of the musical episode, she's like, I've got this priority mission. I'm going on this mission, whatever. they've been foreshadowing that something bad was going to happen to her. But I think that was a bit of a red herring so that we wouldn't see the Ortegas thing. But again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But what do you guys think about the ending a season on a cliffhanger thing?
Well, I mean, you could look at the Locutus episode.
Yeah.
Was one they did that, right? They've done it with they did it with Discovery as well, I think, once or twice, right? Where they beam into the future and then they leave you there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, we should have seen it coming. The to be continued ... Right. I'm often, it's funny. I'm often disappointed when I see that in a story. But this time around, I was like, when it came up, I wasn't like, oh, that's a drag, because I realized that there was a lot of unfinished business in this episode, right?
Yeah.
So sorry, Discovery season 1, they had the big, showdown right at the very beginning, at the very end of the season. I thought this one was actually done well. We haven't been because of all the binging culture that we've got now with series just going on and on and on and on, or you can sit down and watch 10 episodes at once kind of thing. We hadn't really sort of seen that to be continued too often, because it used to, we used to watch just TV shows weekly, right? And that was a way to sort of keep you engaged, looking forward to the next season, that kind of stuff, right? So this would be the kind of thing and then you get things like Serenity where they would just cancel it after this, right?
Yeah.
And never conclude,
Yeah. Which you would say, oh, they'll never happen here, but then they canceled Prodigy already, so who knows?
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jaime, of the conclusion?
I thought it was pretty gutsy. It's like, okay, so you're saying they're definitely going to have a season 3, which, I think in a normal non-Prodigy era, we would have said, yeah, but it's a foregone conclusion. I don't know if it'll have the same sort of gravitas as the Mr. Worf Fire ending, cliffhanger ending that you all talked about. And then, they couldn't have foreseen this necessarily, but really bad timing with the writer's strike and actor's strike. So hopefully we do get a conclusion, at least a third season to cap things off for this story.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys before we move to the watch list about the bad blood that I've been hearing, and you may have been hearing it as well on this show in general, and that is, this show in Lower Decks. Like, a lot of people are not watching Lower Decks because it's animated, right? So there's a lot of, bad tweets and people online, dissing the Lower Decks and not wanting to watch it, even though it's one of the better shows out there these days, right? Especially since, I was talking to a friend of mine on the way to dinner the other day, and he just started watching it after, I sort of convinced him to give it a spin. And he said it's like one of the best things out there because Star Trek takes itself way too seriously. So That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, there's a lot of bad blood over this musical episode they just did. I mean, they played it well in that it was a space anomaly that caused them to all to break into song. Not that we don't all, I occasionally break into song for no reason whatsoever, right? But, or dance. I mean, people start dancing I was at a baseball game yesterday and people were dancing in the stands, obviously to get on the Jumbotron. But, when one guy stood up and started, doing the moves, and he's like older than me, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? But, so we, as a species, we spontaneously break into song. But, I think we all agree, even though we haven't all three of us been on the show together, that was a fun episode, right? Whether we like the musical stylings or not, what do you think about the sort of negative perspective and not atypical of sci-fi or even nerd fans that not like a switch in genre, right?
I think it's just haters gonna hate. I mean, there's been a push against new Trek, sort of Discovery forward Trek. Some people just aren't on board. Some people think it's too dark, which I completely understand their perspective, especially watching Discovery. The first few seasons were pretty heavy. There wasn't as much of that sort of, adventure of the week. Some could be lighter, some could be heavier kind of style that we've seen and enjoyed with Strange New Worlds and even Lower Decks. I get why people don't love it. I struggled with some of it. I've certainly enjoyed a lot of it, probably most of it. But I guess I respect the perspective. I think the musical episode thing, I agree. Obviously, I wasn't part of your conversation last week, although I did agree with most of your points. I think that it was extremely well done. I think, the level of difficulty in doing something like that's extremely ambitious. I thought the performances were really strong. I thought that in the context of the episode, especially, like, they did kind of pay homage to the Buffy episode that was a musical episode 20 years ago. They even have a bunnies joke in Subspace Rhapsody that references the Buffy episode, which there's a character who's afraid of bunnies. Anyways, it definitely, the way that they were using it as a storytelling method, because they only broke into song when their emotions were running high, and there was a lot of character arcs that were tied to emotion that were coming to a head in that episode. There was the La'an and Kirk thing. There was the Chapel and Spock thing. There was, all these moments, even the funny one where, Pike breaks into song on the bridge because he and Marie are fighting and then they have to turn it off. I thought it was a good way to have some of those emotional arcs come to a head because they couldn't control themselves, so they had to air the dirty laundry. I thought that as a storytelling method, that was an effective way to do it. I get why it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know, Tim, you said on last week's episode that you struggled with it at times, that even though it was well done, you struggled a little bit just because, I mean, they were earworms. Once I got used to the songs, I struggled with that style of musical in general. But yeah, these particular songs were written really well. And it kind of softened that blow, as it were. Yeah. So, I mean, I get that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I can't say I understand this sort of, I don't like it, so I'm going to scorch the earth so no one else can like it kind of mentality that is unfortunately pervasive on social media. It's pervasive on, these sort of comment threads and blogs and stuff like that. Reddit, obviously. There's a term for it. It's rate bombing or something like that. Because I heard some people are trying to go against the Barbie movie the same way. Yeah, and they've done it to a number of things that they just feel like, I hated it, so therefore I'm going to just basically, they call it review bombing, I think. Review bombing, yeah. They basically just take the time to go on and write and rate as negatively as they can and tell all their friends and create separate accounts, do the whole thing to get the review ratings down low so that no one could watch it because they hated it so much. I don't understand what prompts someone to do those kinds of things because, I mean, art is subjective, and just because you don't get it and or like it doesn't mean that somebody won't. Again, I will rewatch that musical episode again, not today, but I think it was certainly enjoyable. I'm sure there's more nuance to pick up watching it a second time or a third time. I don't understand why you need to be actively negative. I get that you want to have your opinion. Hell, we have a podcast where we talk about stuff that we do and don't like. I get it. But at the same time, to be maliciously critical, again, we've talked about things we do and don't like. I don't like Tom Cruise movies. Everybody else does. I get it. I'm in the minority. And I can say I don't like it, but I'm also coming from a place of, a lack of, objective knowledge. Maybe these are the greatest things since sliced bread. You can't handle the truth. Well, exactly. And I wanted to say I did actually sit down and I rewatched A Few Good Men recently because I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about it and I was like, oh, that was a good movie. I'm going to watch that again. And I watched it again and he does have a few lunatic moments in it, but he's pretty good in that. But I just saw Kevin Pollak interview where he was talking about this unique story, but he was the new kid on the block. He thought he was in the wrong place because he was compared to all the superstars. And he tells this really funny story about Jack Nicholson. I'll tell you in the after show. But yeah, it's I don't understand what compels people to be as actively and toxically negative as they can be. Jaime, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't understand the dismissal of new Trek and new Trek, as the folks on the interwebs describe. I can kind of get the Discovery angle because it's so far in one direction, and I think the first 2 seasons of Picard I could understand that perspective, but Strange New Worlds is, I think, the best counterexample of this is a blend of the new serialized dramatic version and the old school, not very much serialized in general, one-off episodes that, you know, gets tied together probably the most neatly in Deep Space Nine, especially the latter seasons.
Yep.
I feel like Strange New Worlds fits that model of like, there are some serious character arcs that happen here, but you can more or less sort of jump into each episode for the most part and be okay, especially with the little recap that the Paramount Plus will give you. And I think you're right that Lower Decks and Prodigy both get overlooked as like, well, it's animated, it's for kids. It's like, well, we should be well past that notion, right? The Japanese animation has been in the cultural mainstream for so long, proving that animation is just an art style. It's not necessarily a genre. It's not a kids-only genre. And I don't know. I feel like people are missing things. Let me just go into a light recap of this season, right? So you're missing the drama of La'an and Kirk, largely a one-sided drama, but one that has several episodes. M'Benga and Chapel and their green juice experience, which was one of my big questions we didn't get to. Like, did M'Benga bring the green juice? Because this is a good time to do that if you're fighting lizard monsters, right? You have Chapel and Spock's relationship. You have you know, what's going to go on with Pike, because he's got a dwindling clock. Like, what's going to happen? Is he going to tell Batel? Is Batel going to die? You know, these sorts of things that they loop in kind of nicely. Like, again, I think you could legitimately pick almost any episode. Maybe, you know, cliffhanger season finale is not the best episode out of the 10 to do this, but I think you could pick a whole bunch of random episodes and say, like, here you go, casual fan or mainstream viewer, just watch this one, enjoy it. It's probably largely fairly self-contained, not perfectly. You won't get all the little details, but it won't be like, oh man, I'm like on episode 7 of Discovery, I have no clue what's going on because I haven't seen the prior 6. I think this one fits really well, and I think a lot of the other shows like Lower Decks and to a lesser degree Prodigy fit the model of, it can't be fully episodically. They just clearly don't have the budget to do 20 some odd episodes. And here's the one where Data explores what it's like to own a cat. Like, they can't do that, but they don't have to do the hardcore, you know, it's a 10 episode long movie like Discovery's seasons. So I feel like it's a good blend. Like, I think if people have, you know, got their mind stuck in 2017 when Disco started on CBS All Access and kicked off this whole new era, like, you're totally missing the mark. You might have been right then, and I could see a good argument, but you're definitely wrong now.
And also, just because you don't like it doesn't mean the rest of us don't like it. So maybe don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So I had the thought as I was evaluating this, because I did miss recapping episodes 8 and 9 with you guys. I wanted to think about this because I really enjoyed watching those episodes, and I enjoyed this one too. And I found myself looking through, Jaime, I love that you just did the recap for me, which is great. I looked at this season and was looking at it from, 1 to 10. This is 10 episode season, so obviously it's a shorter season than we would typically have gotten from older Trek. But I'm going to take the bold stance on this one that from top to bottom, this was one of the all-time great seasons of Star Trek. Any Star Trek. 1 through 10. Yeah. From the beginning of the season to the end of the season, quality of episode to quality of episode. I think season 2 of Strange New Worlds is one of the all-time best Star Trek seasons.
I think that could be true. The devil's advocate that I'll take is I have to think about how I feel about the first season of Strange New Worlds, which I also felt was really solid. So,
but the question I guess I come to is, and something for maybe us to do for our next episode is, what are the all-time great? There's been so much Trek over the past 50 plus years. If you were going through, from TOS straight through to this season that just ended, and you were looking at quality of a season, what are the all-timers? Now, I'm not going to do it off the top of my head because I think it takes a little bit of research. But I think that's a really interesting discussion to think about, like, really what were the, like, top to bottom standouts? The ones where you were like, damn, the quality of this entire season was super high.
This show or
all shows, all Star Trek?
That's an interesting challenge because we might have to have a distinction between, when you average it all out, season versus, wow, this season largely sucks, but the mountaintops are so high that it drags the average up, but not enough to counteract, which, I think Strange New World season 1 or season 2, like the average is really high to begin with, sort of thing. Like it's a little bit different of like mean, median, mode sort of analysis of these.
Yep.
I can think 3 right off the top in the original series. The one where Kirk and Spock go down to the planet and McCoy injects them with dilithium crystals and they use a light bulb to make a phaser.
So that's where TOS is a struggle for this. Like I would posit that season wise, TOS off the top of my head probably does not have very good seasons.
No.
It has great individual episodes, and there's a reason that decades after the fact we still love this series, right? So that's where I think like there's some mountaintops that are real high, and then there's some absolute stinkers.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like analyzing it from like a couple different perspectives, because it's real hit and miss with TOS, but obviously those classic episodes are classics for a reason.
Yeah.
And then I think we can agree that seasons 1 and 2 of TNG are disqualified because they were pretty not great. But then when you start getting
anything with Q though, Q was
in 1 and 2, but I really feel like TNG didn't really hit its stride till season 3 when we started getting more Worf, more Picard, more Data. We really started sort of, getting into the characters. They really kind of found their groove.
They changed their uniforms too, right?
We got the high collars. That's right. Yeah. No, there's I think there's a real interesting discussion to be had here about like where the all-timers are on the Star Trek list. But like I said, when I stepped back from this one, I thought, geez, off the top of my head, I'm having a tough time thinking of a top to bottom Star Trek season that was as solid as this one. I mean, we got really strong character arcs for a bunch of different characters, some truly excellent performances from a whole, like almost everybody on the main cast got a really good meaty arc to have, whether it's Pike, whether it's Spock, whether it's Chapel, Mbenga, Uhura got a nice run. Like really, it's only the sort of adjunct characters like Pelia that didn't really get a lot, but like all of the main cast got like some really nice episodes to focus on them. And then from there, you go through the sort of quality of the storytelling, the visuals, everything. You're like, damn, this was really tight.
Yeah.
Well, let's table that because I really do think that there would be a really good, if we could put some research into it, that'd be a really good sort of, which Trek season is the best Trek season of all the Trek seasons, because there's certainly no shortage of episodes to go through.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, we'll move to watch list, and Jaime, you're up first then.
Yeah, my first one is Strange Planet, which started this past week with a 3-episode drop, and then they're going to go week to week. And I'm going to assume they're going to have like 8 to 10 episodes. I didn't actually look up how many they're going to have.
Did you watch any of them?
I did. So we watched the first 3. I think it's a nice, pleasant episode. I do not recommend binging, though, because it's very sort of laid back. It's not the kind of show that I think benefits from watching about an hour, because they're about 20 minutes each straight. I think it benefits from being kind of like the Strange Planet comic strip series that's on Instagram. Like it benefits from quick bites, and I think it's better that way. So if you're going to watch these 3 episodes, I would recommend you watch them like on different days and then just go to the weekly. I think I'll feel much better about it on the weekly than I did. Like, I don't know, it was kind of like eating cotton candy. I was like, wow, super good. First episode. And then my second episode, I'm like, okay. And then third, I'm like, maybe that's a little much at once. Maybe I should have spread this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's, It's actually when the people started saying, "Oh, Rick and Morty," I'm like, "What? This is nothing like Rick." Oh, because Dan Harmon's involved in the creation of this adaptation. So okay, it's not Rick and Morty. Just to be really clear, it's a adapted version of the show the comic series, and it's episodic, but there is a little bit of a very light serialized arc going through. So I didn't expect that. So. Worth a shot if you like the series. If you don't like the comic series, I don't think this is going to be for you.
Cool.
My next two must-watches are based on, this season of Strange New Worlds, and I have a little bit of headcanon here. So there's the CBS channel on YouTube has Kirk versus the Gorn and Defeat of the Gorn. And in my headcanon, because people are going to say, well, wait a minute, it doesn't look like the Halo-esque, awesome Predator-looking thing. I'm like, well, notice that this gentleman, or gentle lady, I don't know how the Gorn sit, they don't have a tail. So in my headcanon, I think Kirk fought a later stage maturation. Like this might be like, a retiree Gorn that he's able to physically fight and axe chop and shoot with a handmade cannon. So that's my sort of retroactive, I think this is what the Gorn ultimately become.
So he beat up on a Gorn senior citizen is what you're saying?
That's what I think, because in this show, Spock cannot defeat a Gorn by himself, right? They had to get some pew pew pews and a lucky sort of head stab of not even the creature itself, the face
the helmet,
shield and glass, right?
Yeah.
So for Kirk to be able to do this realistically, I think because this is a later stage Gorn. Not necessarily retiree, that's my funny joke, but clearly this one doesn't have a cannon, not a cannon, a tail, and clearly is still pretty strong. It lifts up a boulder and hurls it at Kirk, that Kirk himself could not do, but not as overwhelming Schwarzenegger-esque badass like the Gorn we've seen in Strange New Worlds so far.
Yeah.
I just love the idea that the next scene is I can't believe that guy killed Grandpa.
He killed my grandpa. Yeah. Again, another one where he uses he uses science to build a cannon, right? So.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
I've got Good Omens season 2. This one snuck up on me. I knew it was coming, and it just I finally sat down in front of a television for the first time last night and was like, oh, that's out. Oh, it's out. And so that's going to be on my my watch for the next week. I'm going to watch Good Omens. I enjoyed season 1. It was funny. The chemistry between the two lead characters was Michael Sheen and David Tennant was great. It was very Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. It was very sort of silly and funny and witty, and I enjoyed that one a fair bit. I'm looking forward to this one, particularly because there was no sequel. There was no second part or second act to Good Omens. Good Omens was a book that was adapted into the show. And of course, Terry has since passed away, which is a heartbreaking thing in its own right. So Neil basically they had done notes on what they might do if they did a second book, and he sort of took those and expanded on them. And I saw a little behind the scenes thing earlier this week where they said, Terry would have loved this. It's very much in his, sense of humor and style and stuff like that. But I've always been curious to sort of where the story of those two characters goes after they save the world or before. So yeah, it's I'm keen to get into this. I like that series, so I'll definitely be checking that one out. Tim, I know you're a fan as well.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of episodes already, so I know there's a bit of timey-wimey in there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, too, during the pandemic, the two of them did an online sort of play. There's a couple of interesting videos of them talking to each other on Zoom, but they actually I think they did a Shakespeare or something like that, the two of them, like a two-man acting play thing, whatever. Yeah. Yeah,
their chemistry is excellent. It just really, the way that they transform into their characters and the interplay that they have is it's excellent. It's really excellent.
Yeah. Cool.
Ahsoka, I put on the list. That will be premiering on the 23rd, so about a week and a half from now. I'm hoping that we'll talk about it in our after show, but I'm hoping that we'll do that one together because
we'll be back for that one. We'll be back for that one, folks.
There you go. So we solved it right there. But yeah, that they showed dropped the final trailer, so I put that into our watch list show notes here. The final trailer came out this week that they're going to do, and has a little bit more stuff in it. So I don't really think they need to do any more selling. I think if you're in, you're in. But that one just looks amazing. I'm so psyched for it. As the one of the things I was most excited for. I think I picked it as my top thing that I was interested in seeing this year when we did our Spocky Awards back in January. So I cannot wait to see the Rebels crew and Ahsoka and just all the excellent stuff that'll come out of this. And knowing that Dave Filoni, like, he wrote and directed every single episode of this series. Like, this is his baby. Like, people were saying that, they didn't really love the latest season of The Mandalorian, and I think a lot of the criticism is the fact that he walked away from Mandalorian. He left it in other people's hands so he could work on all his energy on this one. So you'd hope that would translate into something that shows his deep love for this character and for the show. So I'm so hyped for it. And the last thing that I chucked in there was Archer. They dropped the trailer for the final season of Archer that's starting on August 30th. Archer is one of my all-time faves. We've talked about it on the show. Bittersweet to see the show come to an end after all this time, but at the same time, all good things, as they say, must. So, yeah.
I thought we already had the final season of Archer, but I guess not, eh?
They have talked about each season sort of being the final season for the last few.
Oh, okay.
They've sort of been like, well, maybe this will be the last one.
This is like the Who's finale, last world tour kind of thing, right?
Yeah, no, and they talked about it, and obviously they've had a couple of the voice actors have passed away and stuff, so there was a lot of like, well, maybe this will be the last one, maybe this will be the last one. This one they're actually billing as the last season, so I think everyone's sort of come to it as being, this is it. So
cool. All right, my picks are a couple. One is the Futurama season 11, I think it is, right? The last season. I think I have to go back and catch up. I'm probably about, I was going to ask you, do you remember which DVD collections you had? Because that's as far as I got with Futurama. Like 6 or 7, maybe? Season 6 or 7?
No, I have them all up until, I think, the entire run, but then they went back, because I have the ones that were like put out as movies initially, but then they've gone retroactively, chopped them up and turned them into a season for Disney Plus and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
because I have no idea how far I got into that season, but I started watching I think I watched 2 or 3 episodes. They come out every Monday. So.
Yeah,
cool. Right. And then following up on what your pick was from 2 weeks ago, Dungeons and Dragons, I believe.
Yeah, I did get to talk about it, but I did watch it.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it now, because what was curious for me is I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Chris Pine and all the various characters in it. But and it's a fun story, even if you know nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, which is my case. It's a bit like Shrek. It's a bit like a lot of other sort of all the Three Musketeers and all those kind of castle-y sort of running around knights with stories and magicians and so on and so forth. So, but I was, again, the gentleman I was talking to about Walking to Lunch is a Dungeons and Dragons player, so I wanted to know from his perspective, what did he think about the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And he said it was really good, like from that perspective, and that he understood that it was recognizable that the Chris Pratt character was a bard. He's like the entertainer guy, and has the musical stuff and the musical abilities, and then you've got the warrior is what's her name now, Michelle Rodriguez, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the magician, and I think they kind of played with it. I kind of got this sense that as you play the game, your character gets stronger depending on how often you play, and you develop your characters over time. And of course, the young magician in the thing is hapless at first, and he starts to develop skills as he gets through the movie. So I thought it was a fun movie. I think I'd recommend it to anybody who wants to sort of get lost in a story for a bit, and it was fun. So what did you think about it, Jonathan? You didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, same thing. Jaime had watched it first and talked about it a number of episodes back, and it was always sort of on my list. It finally popped up on Netflix, so I thought, I'll give it a spin. And yeah, I think I very much agree with Jaime had said, is, go in with, sort of open mind, and it's fun. It's, Chris Pine is inarguably charming. I didn't love the Michelle Rodriguez character. I thought she was a little flat, but then I think that was kind of the joke, is that she's supposed to be the sort of, the warrior, woman of few words kind of thing. But I thought, the little ensemble they came up with was fun. I loved the Easter egg that they put in it for old nerds like me. When they're doing the part where they're in the contest in the arena, and they have all the different groups that are trying to survive, and they had the gelatinous cube and everything like that. The gelatinous cube is a great Dungeons and Dragons note to put in there, but the other part is that one of the other groups that's in there looks exactly like the Dungeons and Dragons cast from the 1980s cartoon series. The way they're dressed, like the ones who end up in the the cage next to them and stuff, that those are exactly to the costume how the characters look from that show. I was like, that's a brilliant little hat tip. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to be somewhere that wasn't just building on established IP. I think that's the truth of what we're seeing right now with Barbenheimer in the theaters and so many other things. Asteroid City that I just watched, and a bunch of stuff. I like the Marvel movies, and I like the Star Wars, and I like the tentpole stuff, and I think it's great, and I think it's absolutely has its place in the marketplace. But tell me something different. Show me something else. Don't be afraid to go somewhere else. And I get that sometimes they get pantsed by that. They take a risk, and then nobody goes, and they get lambasted for it. But I thought that this was something fresh, and I was happy to see it.
All right, well, I guess that's it for another week. So, hey, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they find you?
You can always find me on Twitter and Instagram, or X and Instagram, at JPK News, or you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
Cool. All right. How many people get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter as @DevaTheHair.
All right, my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA, and I'm on the Twitter machine, which I'm still calling Twitter. I'm on Mastodon, I'm on Threads, Blue Sky. Yeah, all those places. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Sad. I'm looking at the Cineplex, and there's no showings of Asteroid City.
It's available for streaming now. You can watch it on streaming.
Oh, okay. Is it?
Yep.
Like if you pay the money, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's on iTunes Store and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, $5 or whatever to rent.
Wait. So we go to movies. Right? Oh, yeah. So it's weird. It's not playing anywhere. Is it like more enjoyable in the theater?
I mean, I enjoyed seeing it in the theater, but I like his filmmaking style, and I like seeing the tapestry big. However, I will say the comment that both my wife and I had coming out of it was, like so many movies by Wes Anderson, you come out immediately saying, I got to watch that again. So I think being able to sort of sit down and watch it and then maybe watch it a second time or a third time would benefit, just because the dialogue is always so crisp and moves. And because he paints on such a beautiful tapestry, he makes these beautiful scenes and stuff. It would actually be kind of nice to have been able to pause and be like, oh my God, look at that. Look at the detail here. Look at that. This is really cool. There was a number of times where I was like, it's all moving by too fast.
Wait, it says you can rent it on Apple TV for $24.99?
Yeah, because they usually do that when it's when it's still in the theaters. They do that as like the, what do they call it? The home premiere or whatever. But I'm sure in the next week or so, it'll be like $6 to rent, which is what their normal rental rate is.
So these are like, so it's a rental, it's a home stream movie right now. It's not you're not buying it, right?
Let's see. You can buy it for $30 or you can rent it for $25. But then I imagine in the next very short amount of time, it'll go down to the usual rental price, which I think is $6 Canadian. And then you wait for it to go on sale if you want to own a copy. I find Anderson movies frustrating because they go from theater to streaming to a regular physical release to 2 years later going to a Criterion release, and every one of his movies has gotten a Criterion release, but you're sort of in that limbo state of like, do I get the regular one because it's going to be years before they get the Criterion one, or do I just wait for the best quality one when Criterion comes out? I have the Criterion ones of most of them, but I don't have them for all of them because A, they're expensive, and B, they're like they just sometimes you lose track. You're like, it's been years. I still haven't gone and purchased the Criterion version of, like, I don't have the Criterion of French Dispatch or some of the other more recent ones.
Yeah, I think I have Royal Tannenbaum. I don't have the Criterion. I have the original box of that one.
Yeah,
I have a few of his movies, and I'm pretty sure I think you've given me some of the Criterion ones as presents. But yeah. Oh well.
Yes, indeed.
To be me. So what else is going on? How about those Blue Jays? I watched them lose yesterday.
Yeah, they are still being very inconsistent.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we're sitting there with a couple of, I was sitting between two really seasoned baseball fans, and we're looking at all the sort of weird numbers on the board, OBS and OPS and all that, kind of trying to figure out what those are. And they were telling me all about baseball and things like that. And they're like, so do you think that the Blue Jays are going to win? I'm like, absolutely not.
You're like, I'm a lifelong Leafs fan. I'm trained to wait for losses.
Well, I got to tell them about, the Hamilton would like to get a baseball team as well, but, that would never happen because if they got one, Toronto would want a professional baseball team too. So,
that's a better joke for hockey teams, though, because, But,
it's 1993. It's been 30 years since they won the pennant.
Since they won the World Series, yeah. No, I mean, they've come
sure
close
must be nice having a championship, though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's all perspective.
The Mariners have not won one, and I, came to learn of the dominance of the Blue Jays in that era. Because of Ken Griffey Jr.'s Major League Baseball on the Super Nintendo, where if you didn't play as the Mariners to enjoy, Griffey as the one actual real player, because his name was on the title, that's where I ended up liking the Mariners. You would probably play as the Blue Jays, who were an absolute monster with their, fake names for everybody, because everybody else but Griffey was a fake name.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember playing, I had the Sega Genesis, and I remember playing... the first one they came out with, the first baseball game they came out with was called Sports Talk Baseball, and it was one of the first baseball games that actually had a commentator, because up until then, the technology wasn't good enough that they could actually do somebody speaking. All you could do was little sound effects and music and stuff like that for some of the first generation 8-bit systems. 16-bit, you actually got to hear somebody go like, "Here comes Alomar to the plate," and it was pretty cheesy, but that Blue Jays team was the same team that went on to it was the 91 team that made it to the playoffs and was really competitive but lost ultimately. And then the second one that came out, the second version was called World Series Baseball, and World Series Baseball had the World Series winning Blue Jays lineup in it, and my God, like the first team, of course, it's got it's got Devon White, Roberto Alomar, Joe Carter, Dave Winfield, all these players, and you're just like, man, this is a very good team. And then the second team, they added like Ricky Henderson, and a couple other players to the lineup, and you're like, I could win every game. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, that whole team was so stacked. That 93 team that won the World Series, I think 5 or 6 guys from that team are in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, Tim. It's a long way down from there.
As we sit and record this, because I don't think the game has actually started. So the Blue Jays are in the 3rd wildcard spot for the American League, and the Mariners are a half game behind them, with the Jays losing yesterday. The Mariners getting really close and scrambling. So I would propose that actually what we should be looking at collectively is for the Astros to lose, because this helps both the Blue Jays and the Mariners. So we have a combined enemy here on this very podcast. So don't think of it as Blue Jays versus Mariners for that last one. Think of it as both of us combining to move the Astros out of the wild card.
Yep. No, I think it's going to be an interesting fall. I mean, it does not help that the Blue Jays, what was supposed to be their best pitcher, is now back in the minor leagues. Alek Manoah has been demoted again. This guy was supposed to be their stud pitcher, and he just hasn't been good at all this season. So I don't know. Again, I think a lot of people were like, well, maybe this is the year they finally put it all together. I'm like, I don't think it is, but we'll see. I find Toronto's still a bit of a there was a lot of energy when they had the Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion years a few years ago. I think there was a lot of people excited about baseball again, and that was fun to watch. And maybe it'll heat up as we get into September and they're making a run, but I just feel like this is still a bit of a fair weather baseball city, where when they're good, people care; when they're mediocre, nobody cares, and when they're bad, there may as well be no baseball team in town. It's interesting to see how people react.
Yeah.
Fan Expo Canada coming up on the 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th. I think we'll have to get the wear our Spotcast gear to Fan Expo and put a little sign on that says "Ask me for a pin or a sticker."
Yeah, true.
Actually, it occurred to me that Anson Mount and Ethan Pike and Michelle Hurd and some of the people are going to be there. I think is it worth paying?
No, they won't.
Yeah, no, they are. They're coming. They are allowed to come.
What?
They are coming.
Yeah, because I think Zach, what's his name from Shazam, was getting grief for being at some expo thing, right?
Yeah, no, Michelle Hurd is part of the negotiating committee, and so she's said she's coming, and she said that they're basically they are putting sort of restrictions on what they will and won't do when they're at these events. So I don't think they're explicitly going to be doing panels that talk about certain things, but they are doing their appearances and stuff like that. So yeah, so from the Trek world, yeah, we've got Michelle Hurd, we've got Anson Mount, Ethan Peck. I think that might be it from Trek. There are obviously a number of Todd Stashwick's going to be there too, the guy who was the captain in Picard. Oh, and Gates McFadden's going to be there too. But I was just thinking, is it worth paying the whatever $75-$80 to go get an autograph, just to give them a Spotcast pin and ask them to wear it?
Or even tell them about it.
Yeah. I looked to sort of see what they're charging, because I actually have all the prices and stuff up on the website now. So to get an autograph from Anson Mount is $90 Canadian. To get a photo,
does that include a picture or no?
No, to get a photo with him is $95. So I don't know if that's you have to pay for both of those things, and one's an autograph and one's a thing, but yeah, so he was 90 and 95, and then I think Ethan Peck was cheaper. I think, let's see, he was autograph is 60 and a photo is 70. So it's funny that they set the rates on these things by themselves, I guess.
Yeah, Yeah, it's up to the
My
agents,
time
I
is
guess,
worth this.
No, you know what it is. It's not just the agent. It's like we talked about. The agent gets some of it.
Oh,
the
yeah.
publicist gets some of it.
But some of them are crazy. Like Hayden Christensen won't even do photos with you. But then his is like really explicit. It's like if he signs a photograph, it's this much. If he signs an item like a poster, it's even more. If he signs something like a lightsaber, it's even more. If you ask him to add, like, sign it, Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader, or Anakin Skywalker, it costs an extra amount. Like, it's really interesting. And they just announced that.
Well, he is frickin' Darth Vader, right? So
he is. They just announced that Millie.
He's the only living one. He's the only living one too, because
yeah, it's true.
David, what's his name, died,
Prowse,
right?
Prowse, yeah. Millie Bobby Brown is now coming to Fan Expo, which is not a small deal. She's a pretty big celebrity. And yeah, it's $160 for a photo with her. So again, some of them are like pretty steep. But Is
that on the Fan Expo site?
Yeah, if you go into the celebrity guest site, it basically lists all their names. It tells you which days they're going to be there, and if you click through onto their individual pages, it tells you individually what they are willing to do and what they will charge you for it, as far as what you want to get into. It's fanexpohq.com. $85 for a picture with Gates McFadden. Yeah, so if you pick Fan Expo Canada 2023, because there is Fan Expo is all over the North America now.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have events in multiple
cities.
cities. My friend Kevin is still actively involved with the guest stuff.
Yeah, they're in Chicago this week.
Yeah. So if you click on the Toronto one or the Canada one, and then you click through to the celebrity guests list.
The stupid ARC browser I got to complain about. That I was complaining about before. Thanks, Keen, for recommending the ARC browser.
I just texted it to you, the link. Yeah.
That's where I am, but
if you scroll down, it's a celebrity guest, then you scroll down, and it should be like I'm seeing pictures of all the different actors and
copy and paste into ARC because ARC is stupid. Keen. Right.
Boy, this guy's going through the ringer this week. He's a hero? He's a villain?
Oh, you have to sign up too as well? Or is Kevin Smith coming?
Kevin's not.
Or they're just using him. They're just using him for advertising.
Because I think it's a past. Like Kevin was here before. Jason Lee's going to be there.
Yeah. Chevy Chase, Christina Ricci.
Yeah, the character arc here is really. I'm going to make a callback to the spoilers: Death of Dinobot in Beast Wars, which I looked up to make sure I get it correct. Tell my tale to those who ask. Tell it truly, the ill deeds along with the good, and let me be judged accordingly. The rest is silence.
Sorry, what was that for?
That was for the ill deeds and the good deeds that Keen had as a character arc, if we call it that, on this very show.
Yeah. Is Jamie Kennedy actually is it actually a celebrity?
I mean, I think what they're doing is a whole Scream thing there, right? They've got Nev Campbell, Matthew Lillard, Skeet Ulrich, and Jamie Kennedy. So that's 4 people from Scream that they're bringing together. And the same thing for Vacation, they've got Chevy Chase, and then they got Christy Brinkley and Dana Barron and Anthony Michael Hall. So they've got like a whole Vacation, so you can get like, if you had like a Vacation poster or something, you can get all the celebrities to sign it. And there's a bunch of people from The Office, and so I guess it depends what you're into.
What's a table photo price as opposed to an autograph?
I believe it
price?
Means that they have photos of like different versions of themselves. Like you'll see that on some of the celebrity tables. They'll be like, there's a picture of them as this character or this character or this character.
And you buy that, and then you get to sign it, so it ends up being twice the cost or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing as going across the hall, like I did when I met Matt Smith. As I went and bought a picture of him, and then I took it over and got it signed.
Yeah.
Whereas when I got when I met Keir Delay and Gary Lockhart, I'm pretty sure you had the posters there, and I just said, I want that one signed, and then they signed it, right?
Yeah, no, I think they do. So, it just, again, depends on the
like I don't remember having to pay twice, was what I'm saying. Like I remember paying the one time, right? So Millie Bobby Brown looks different with hair. Gwendolyn Christie, cool. Oh, what did I just do? I just hit something. There we go. The 2-finger swipe thing of death.
Well, my kids have already told me that they both want to go, so I assume we'll do the whole gang at some point. We'll go.
All right. That's on a Friday, Saturday,
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, well, it's pretty close to one of my PTOs, so I don't know if I can squeeze another day in. Or 24th. Oh, no. Oh, I'm going to be in California that weekend.
Oh, that's the whole weekend you're away?
Yeah.
Womp, womp.
So Sherry's going to enjoy looking after 3 dogs by herself.
Yeah.
Could you recruit a cousin to come back out?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm going to miss it. Oh, well.
Oh.
That's too bad. I have to go play with Apple hardware. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I know, what a shame, eh? And have breakfast on the Embarcadero on Saturday morning. It's awful, awful. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to stand it.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice we appreciate you making for us.
Yeah. Anyway, I have to go and mourn the loss of missing out on Fan Expo.
Well, Godspeed. All right, talk soon. Jaime, have a good trip. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Talk to you all later. Have a good trip.
Guys.
All right.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Let's find the off buttons for this thing. Bye.
A client met his banker to discuss opening a restaurant in a busy airport. In us, he found a partner that understood the importance of reaching for the sky. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac.